Welcome to True and Unpolished. Through this podcast, our intention is to uplift, amuse, and inspire you to create more of a life you'll love. Let's get authentic, everybody. Trust. That's what we're talking about on today's episode. Do you know why I'm talking?
Dramatic.
I know. You know I'm talking. You know why I did that?
Mm-mm.
It's because I'm sick of hearing myself say, "Hey, everybody."
Well, that's a nice way to mix it up.
Yeah, I'm just keeping it interesting. I'm keeping everybody on their toes.
To me, trust is, the topic is trust. And as a therapist, a lot of times what happens is clients will be like, I just want to be able to trust people.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's like that, and hearing, I just want to be happy. Those to me are the two like misnomers about therapy. One, you're never going to be able to learn to trust people.
That's right.
Yes, I said it.
Yeah, you can't trust people. I said that. Yeah.
And if your goal is to just be happy, you are going to fail. So
wait, hold on. So what we're saying is you can't trust people and you will not be happy.
Right.
Tune in next week, everybody.
Thanks for listening. So, yeah, I think that for me, trust is about what I have learned through a lot of different things. Of course, mindfulness being one of them, but really this whole experience of witnessing you, Lydia, with, following your inspiration and introducing me to oracle cards. It actually had the opposite effect for me because my head was always in the clouds before any of that stuff. And somehow it actually grounded me. It helped give me focus and help kind of settle my thoughts so that I could actually listen to my own inner wisdom.
Yeah.
I would love it, Lydia, if you would tell us why learning to trust yourself and just practicing trusting yourself, why that was important for you personally.
I don't know if that's the way I should say it. I was going to say I was a liar.
That's not the truth.
That's not the truth. But
and you can't say that on the True and Unpolished podcast if it's not the truth.
I know, but that it has felt true. Like even as I've, been on, actively participating in my spiritual journey, because everybody's on a spiritual journey, whether they know it or not.
Right.
But since I started to actively participate and consciously participate, I thought that I had passed that voice that said, you can't, Lydia's lying. And really and truly, every single time something bad has happened to me in my life, there is a voice that says, this is not happening. You're making it up. Every time. And I, after reading the spiritual books, I decided, oh, they're saying that life is a dream. Like that's what it means. Life is a dream. And maybe it is. But I think really it was about me not trusting myself, especially trusting what I see right in front of me. Early on, people around me, adults, the people that were guiding me, because we're all totally vulnerable when we're born. The people that were guiding me were leading me to believe that I could not trust myself. And that imprint.
And that you couldn't trust life. I mean, I think a lot of us are taught that you can't trust life. I mean,
that's right. Yeah, it's so true.
I mean, the current kind of situation, wherever you stand on the spectrum, we're getting a lot of that. I mean, both sides of the argument are spouting the ways in which we cannot trust life.
Right. That's exactly right. So Esther Perel, she in her TED Talk, her first TED Talk, she talks about her family, who were all survivors of the Holocaust, and she watched them, she after the Holocaust with their families, their children, and there were some that would say, go out, you're going to be okay, life's going to be an adventure, follow what you're I'm sure they didn't say bliss, but they were saying you're going to be okay. And then there was this other group of people where they were so afraid after what had happened to them that it was all caution. It's like, oh, it's scary. You need to be careful. You need to be careful. And so she, gives the image of those two children walking out into the world. And at some point, every child will do this. They'll walk out and they're going to turn back around metaphorically and look. And if they had look at where they're coming from, look at their home of origin, and they're going to say, either, yes, I can do this. Like, I remember I'm strong, I can do this, or they're not ever going to be able to really leave and enter the world, metaphorically. And I had that realization with my son yesterday. My son, who I've talked about before, has special needs, and right now he's got, some medical stuff going on that we're trying to get to the bottom of. And so we're seeing lots of specialists and all of these things. And one of the things that's happened for him is that he has these chronic headaches and he gets dizzy. And so I've struggled with, like, does he go to school? Does he not go to school? Like, an answer is not imminent. So we can't just keep him home forever and ever. And yesterday, again, he was saying, I just can't do it. I can't do it. And I was saying, you can. I'm sorry. I hate that you're hurting. We're going to figure this out, but you got to go to school. And then it hit me when we were in the car, because I could tell there was a psychological component, like sometimes where it ramps up. I mean, it's always there, but it ramps up big time on Sunday nights and Mondays when he has to leave this house to go to school.
Right.
And I realized that because I have been, since the beginning with him, there's been all these challenges. I have made him scared. I have made him scared of the world because I have worked.
Because you wanted to protect him.
Yeah, I wanted to protect him.
You want him to be safe.
That's right. And, the people around me when I was young, that is what they did. They just worried about out there. And I equate love with worry, and worry and love are not the same thing. So I realized that I was hurting him, not meaning to. And I looked at him and I said, you are strong. Say it. And I said, say, I am strong. He said, I am strong. I said, you are going to be okay. You got this. I said, you think about how much love we have in our house. I said, can you kind of feel it? And he said, yeah. And I said, that is our strength. That is how we get to go out in the world, even when it's hard, even when
we don't want
to. We know that we're safe because that love comes with us. It comes with us.
That was such a smart, wise thing to say,
Oh, thanks. But, it took a long time. He's almost 10. So it only took a decade, but yeah,
I think that's part of the reason we have kids.
I know.
Because we learned, they help us grow, don't they?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that definitely is what I want him to know. I want him. And so when I picked him up yesterday, after having talked to Mayor about this, I really wanted to get the point across to him. And he got in the car. I said, I need to tell you something. He said, okay, what? I said, I want you to know that you are amazing and you are going to do great things and you're going to go out into the world and I'm going to miss you, but you are going to be okay. You're going to do it. And he and he said, and you're the best mom in the world. But he says that now all the time. And so, because he's autistic, and so he does patterns, and like this,
Yeah.
he elicited a good response from me when he did that the first time. So now he's just doing it. So
No, I think you should accept the love,
yeah,
and
yes,
to
yes,
not minimize his giving it to you.
yeah. And I really do. It really does
And I
make
know
me
you
smile
don't.
every
I know
time.
you don't do that, but it
Yeah.
kind of came across that way.
Sorry, everybody. Yes. And so I said that, Jim, and then he got into, where am I going? Why am I leaving you? And I said, well, look, I said, you see that I don't live with my mom. Nana lives in South Carolina. And,
Mhm.
and then I pointed to, his dad and where his family was and how he wasn't with them. And now he's back with them. I said, some people decide to stay in the same area. And he goes, or I could go to Mexico. And I said, yeah, if Mexico's where you want to go. I said,
Yeah.
I might have to build a house right next to you. And he said, why? I said, because I'll miss you. And he said, how much will you miss me? 1 to 10. I said 70 million. He said 70 million and one, that he would miss me 70 million and one.
Well, you didn't tell them what you did
What I
at the school.
Oh,
You told him what you said, but you didn't tell the part about.
I didn't tell you that part. Okay, yes. So I have never let him.
I think this is a good example of trust.
Yes,
Trusting yourself,
and trusting
also
life.
as a parent, like a hard lesson for us to get in parenting our children. Like, this is their journey, we're not their keepers. It's not,
Mhm.
we don't own them.
Right.
They're their own people.
Right. And there are ways that I am really great at that. And there are ways that I really struggle. And in the one that I really struggle, and I always say, well, it's because, he has special needs and developmentally, he's not the same age,
Right.
or whatever. But, while that's true, I recognized suddenly that in some ways I was stunting him by this worry.
Mhm.
So we got to the school, and I have never let him go in, like, through the office by himself. And then
She walks him to school
I
and to
walk
school
him.
every day.
Well, I walk him. Okay, we'll just go with that. Yes.
That wasn't meant to be judgmental.
No,
It might
I
have
know.
come across that way.
Yes, no,
But
it's totally
but
okay.
I think it's relevant to the story.
It is. It is.
And
And I did the same thing with pickup. Yes. So I said, you know what? You are almost 10. And I think that I need to start letting you do more things on your own. I said, so I think you should go into the office, go in, because he was going in late.
right.
Go in by
Okay.
yourself. And I always want to manage that, because it's like, does he know where he's going, and does he know what class it is, and where is the classroom? Because he doesn't have any, like, he gets lost all the time. So I said, I want you to go in by yourself. I said, do you want me to walk you in, or do you want to go in by yourself? But first I told him he should, and that he
Yeah.
could. But then I wanted him to have a choice. Like, do you want me to? And he said, by myself. And he, like, jumped out of the car.
Ran.
And the thing is, he was, like, not wanting to go the whole time. And then he jumps out of the car. And the same is true for walking. I have never let him walk to the car. And of course, yesterday it snowed. So there was, like, ice on the ground. And I was like, oh, he's going to run and he's going to fall on the ice. But I just stayed in the car, and I waited, and he's walking to the car by himself. I mean, it's like a block away. I don't want anybody to think it's, like, right in front.
Right. Well, I honestly, Lydia, I think other people can relate. I mean, I would be on the other end of the spectrum, but being on the end of the spectrum isn't a better place, because it's still on the end of the spectrum,
right?
And so I've had to kind of come in a little bit and nurture more, and, like, handhold, and that's what I've had to learn how to do. And so it's not, I think people will be able to relate to that. People who tend to want to cling to their children,
right.
Which is a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
To an extent, right?
Yeah.
It's okay to want that, just like it's okay to be somebody like me who would like push them out the door.
Yeah.
Macy makes the joke that she's like, tells this story about how much she hates cream cheese, because whenever she was like 5 or 6, she says, my mom started making me make my own lunches when I was like 5 or 6. And then all I had in the house
was cream cheese,
crackers and cream cheese. So she made these cream cheese cracker sandwiches. And she said they were so gross by the time it was lunchtime, because the cream cheese was hot, that she just gets grossed out by cream cheese now. So,
well, can I tell you that?
So there's the other end of the spectrum.
That's the other end of the spectrum, everybody.
But she's independent, and she does feel comfortable going out into the world.
Yes.
I think
another really common thing that people do is we see our children as extensions of us, and one of the ways that I see that manifest in myself is when they want to wear like the same shirt the next day, or they want to wear pants that have holes in them, or their
jerseys.
Right. They wear jerseys every day. I mean, that was a big deal. Anyway, my children. Or when they have like a hole in their shoe and I haven't noticed it, and then I notice it and I say, well, how long have you had that? Oh, I don't know, a really long time. And I'm like, and the reason why I do that is because, and I say this to them, I'm like, look, people do not look at you and say, oh, that boy, he's got holes in his shoes, what's wrong with him? They look at you and say, what's wrong with his mom? He's got holes in his shoes. All right, well, I think we need to talk about an unpolished moment, Mayor.
Well, I do have an unpolished moment. So I have this car that I love. It is old though. It's a 2006 Jeep Wrangler, and it is the most fun car I've ever had.
Of course.
And when I bought it, Macy was like, yeah, that sounds great. But really, she dislikes the car very much. I mean,
your daughter.
Yeah, hate's a strong word, but it's pretty close to that.
Yeah.
It's loud. It's obnoxious. I mean, it's on a lift. I mean, it's so like.
It's got a lift? I didn't know it had a lift kit. Oh my gosh. Mary.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like super high, but it's high. It's kind of hard to get into it. Like every year it gets a little harder to get in. Anyway, so this is the thing. This is what happened. Well, what happens every morning when it's cold is it takes about 5 minutes for the car to warm up enough for it to, for us to get to the school, the high school where I have to drop her off, freshman in high school. It warms up enough that as soon as we get to the school, this high-pitched squealing noise starts. Every time you like slow down, take your foot off the gas, which when you're in a school zone is pretty much all the time. So you have to, like, if you push the gas enough, then it will quiet down. But every time you take your foot off the gas, it goes back up.
Yeah.
So what we do on the way to school is I turn the car off, because if we time it right and we get the lights right and the turns right, then it's possible that we can get almost to the drop off and it'll just barely start squealing.
Oh my gosh, that is so stressful. That sounds so stressful to me. I cannot, my anxiety would be like through the roof.
It is so stressful, and it's just started getting cold, so it hasn't been an issue. I mean, there's other Jeep related issues. Don't let me fool you, but I actually have an appointment that I made a month ago to get it looked at, and this is going to be the third place that I've taken it to, which is the Jeep dealership. So I hope they can figure out
Oh,
what's
wow. It's
going
a
on,
mystery.
because we don't even know.
I'll tell you what's going on. You want me to tell you?
Right.
Life doesn't, life gives us what we emanate. And she's afraid that her mom's going to stand out. And so guess what's happening? Her mom is standing out in the Jeep. Like that's,
Right.
so
Which
it's
is
a
so, I
lesson for
mean, I
her.
think to be fair, I mean, what 15-year-old wants to be
Oh, of
dropped off in
course.
that
Oh,
ridiculousness?
absolutely. Yeah. And I'm with her. I mean, you got a lift kit on that thing. Jeez. Yeah. So, and
It
that,
is awesome. I mean, if you ever rode in it, well, either you would be like, this sucks,
oh no,
or
I'll
this is
love it.
awesome.
No, I'll love it. But
So,
that's because you don't take me to school every morning.
right. I mean, life is going to give you what you ask for, is your point.
Yeah. Well, it's going to give you what you emanate. If you're emanating fear around something, eventually that energy is enough to draw it to you.
And that is true, because when she got out of the car today and I was saying, at least this is the last day, and she's like, well, we hope.
You mean,
and she just like got out of the car, because it was especially loud this morning. And I was like, well, I'm embarrassed to have a kid that's embarrassed
there's
of
to me.
So that's coming back around to,
Yeah,
the
extension.
clinging to our children.
Yeah, yeah,
I guess it's hard not to have that sometimes, like,
yeah, yeah.
but I'd also say I'm very sensitive, and I've picked up on her energy. I mean, this has been going on for a little while.
What are some ways that we can create more trust in life? Ultimately, every trust is about you trusting yourself. In my experience, that's what we're talking about. So even if you think it's about trusting the other person, it's
Yeah.
not. It's trusting that you have made a choice, a good choice to trust the person. So when we get in touch with trusting ourselves, the other stuff gets easier. I think that one of the reasons why I got to that place, I know that one of the reasons I got to that place with my youngest son, where I realized that I was making him afraid of life, is because I had just gotten a huge lesson from a member of my family that said, what I intuitively was coming to me was right. And my
What
memory,
you didn't necessarily want to remember,
right, I
but
didn't want to remember. That's right. And now it's been confirmed to me, even though life is like trying to tell me, and I would say, no, 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 no.
Lydia, you're a liar. Big
Yeah,
old
you're a
liar.
liar. What's wrong with you? And then I had a family member tell me that no, I was right. And it was the most wonderful feeling to know that I wasn't making things up.
Validated your experience in a way that you hadn't been validated before.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And
So,
but it
yeah.
showed me that I'm not a liar. It showed me that I still had a place in me that thought I was. You know what I mean? I didn't even know. So one of the reasons why I got a piece of self-trust back, and then all of a sudden I could see that I was not trusting life with my son, and I was making him afraid.
Well, and I think it's real hard to figure out how to get there if you've been told you're a liar, and or been told something else by the people closest to you.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I think that the one thing that I would suggest is therapy. I mean, if you are someone who doesn't trust yourself, or says, I can't trust myself, or I can't trust people.
Yeah, if you
Then
don't trust other people, you need some self-trust. If you don't trust life, if you don't trust you're going to be safe walking out the door, you need self-trust. It's all self-trust.
right. So I think therapy is definitely a very helpful thing. Coaching can be helpful if
Absolutely.
if you've done enough work and you're stable in, your mental health and that sort of thing, then coaching can be an excellent alternative to therapy. I think another big thing to me is reframing what trust is.
Mm.
So if you believe that you need to be able to trust other people, or you believe that you can't trust yourself, or you believe that you can't trust other people, I think recognizing that ability exists within each one of us. And acknowledging it. You might not be good at it. Like, whenever I remember the first time I had a master's degree in art therapy. So I'd gotten formal training, and I was probably 24, 25 years old. I was young, probably 25. And I remember the first time I was like aware of my thoughts. I was 25 years old, and I had a master's degree in a therapeutic profession.
Yeah.
And it was the first time I was literally conscious of my own thoughts. Like, oh, I can change this. I can do this. I can think differently. Because I never knew that even with all that education, I never knew that I had control over that.
Right. Isn't that
25
amazing?
years.
Wow.
And so recognizing that, okay, I might not believe it. I might not be good at it right now because of what I've, experienced or what I've been taught, but to recognize that it is within every person.
Yeah.
So
So
if it's true for every other person on the planet, then it must be true for me. And I am going to commit to finding it in my own
finding
self.
my trust. I love it.
So it might not be there. You might not feel it right now, but just shifting your perspective and reframing it to say, I know that this is possible, and I'm going to figure out how to do it. And it might take time. But another thing I was going to mention is, and this is important because we're going to talk about this with Carrie next week on the podcast, and it's synchronicities and signs. And that's a good one for trusting in life. So we might talk more about the oracle cards, but also just, when you get messages from life in the form of signs, music, animals, animal sightings, relationships, things that you hear.
And I think it's a muscle. I mean, trust is a muscle. So the more you do it, the more you can do it. So, and I think that's why I needed to go on all those walks that led to nowhere, because I really, really needed to get some trust. And I'll say too that there's a book, and it's not a new book, but I think it's great. And it's called Trust Your Vibes, and it's by Sonia Choquette. And she is a great teacher in like how to tap into your intuition, because the other thing about intuition is the more you listen to it and follow it, the more it comes to you. So in order to live an intuitive life, and you are intuitive, we all are. But in order to live an intuitive life, you have to trust yourself, because you're going to hear it, and you've got to trust, yes, and just do it. Well, I think that we can trust that you guys will listen next week too. Right?
Right.
Yeah. We're going to assume the sale. Good. Well, thanks, Mayor, for talking. And I'm so glad you told everybody about Carrie being back next week. Remember, she comes at the beginning of the month for you guys and us.
Talk about signs and synchronicities. And it's something, I think this is a fun topic. And I'm excited to talk about it with Carrie, because it's also something that she's been following for a while. Lydia has, and I mean, all of us.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear
ways.
Stories. This is gonna be awesome. And just again, that was Sonia Choquette. Her book is Trust Your Vibes, and what I love about that book is she gives practices for building that trusting your intuition. So she really actually gives you some exercises you can do. So thank you for trusting us with your time. And you have been listening to True and Unpolished, the podcast. Let's see what happens next.